So the drug exists in the first place because you see what's happening in society, specifically more so in the United States. The good is that it did help, and it does help with diabetes. It helps with weight loss. The bad part of it now, like any drug, it comes with complications and side effects, not favorable side effects. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Brave Today podcast. In this show, my hopes is to encourage, challenge, maybe even provoke you to step outside your comfort zone and to take more action to better improve yourself and, of course, your health. I'm your host, Mark Avens, and in this crazy, backwards, upside down, crazy world that seems to just keep pushing the narrative for people to become softer, weaker, sicker, and unhealthier, more dependent than ever before, the goal and intent of this show is to help you navigate through this so that you can become braver today than you were yesterday. And today, welcome to the very first flavor of the day. So, flavor of the day, we are going to talk today about something that's in the dieting weight loss world, things that have been causing commotion, whether it be some sort of new workout or some kind of crazy new diet or maybe some medication. And yes, that's actually the flavor of the day today. And it's the famous, maybe not so much famous anymore, word Ozempic. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, let's jump in. And as I share this with you, just so you know, there's no advertising here, truly how this podcast grows. If you found value in this, all I ask is that you leave a comment below, whether you're catching this on podcast or you're watching this on YouTube. And that if you did find value, that you do share it with a friend, very much a help for me and to grow this and to help as many people as I can become braver today than they were yesterday. So let's jump right in. Ozempic. Ooh, I'm sure you've heard the word. It's pretty much now like one of the top buzzwords in all of the dieting and weight loss industry. And I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly. But let's talk about the good first. Well, let's just maybe the word's out, subjectively speaking. Let's talk about the good. Now, Ozempic, you may have heard the term, and it was used. This was a drug that has been used to treat diabetes. And really what the drug actually does, it mimics a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, and it's GP1. There's some other GLP-1, which basically it stimulates insulin production and suppresses the production of glucagon, which, glucagon is what raises the blood sugar. So the body naturally releases GLP-1 after a meal, and the hormone travels to the brain, triggering this feeling of fullness, right? We know one of the big things is just keep eating. We put all this weight on and we don't feel full, right? I know I've felt that way before, but this GLP-1 drugs, classified drugs, effectively, they inject this sense of satiation, which basically means you're satisfied, you're full. And also it slows the rate at which your food empties out of the stomach. So what happens is patients generally report this freedom from cravings and this, I guess, more or less inability. They're just not able to overeat without actually becoming sick. Kind of familiar. It kind of sounds like what weight loss surgery does when they do bariatric surgery and they put you've seen they put the clamps around the stomach. It doesn't allow you to eat as much food, or you have to eat a lot slower. We're not here to talk about that here. We're talking more about the drug that actually does this. So why this drug exists in the first place? So maybe that's the question. And you'd be kind of surprised because drugs like this have been around for quite a long time. We'll get to that. So the drug exists in the first place because you see what's happening in society, specifically more so in the United States. I think it was maybe 20 years ago, and you can go look at kind of the research yourself. You can go do the back end. I'm here to share with you right now, Americans as a whole, close to 50% being obese, more than half of our entire country being obese. And that's like 30 to 35% BMI. That's just height and weight. So bottom line is you don't need to know that. You just go out into the world, go to your grocery store, go out in public and look around, and you'll see plenty of people. And you're not necessarily to judge, just going to share with you what facts are facts and what you see with your own eyes. More than half of Americans are classified as obese. And even kind of crazy is 11% of that diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And that's what this drug Ozempic was used for, right? So both involve this, what we call metabolic dysfunction. There's a problem going on with the metabolism. And type 2 diabetes is basically characterized by a resistance to insulin. So, right, a trait that tends to develop as a person, what happens to gain fat? Insulin resistance leads to higher blood sugar, which then increases the risk of things like stroke and heart disease and nerve damage. And, obviously with that, then there's obesity, which is correlated with things like higher rates for cancer, sleep apnea, lots of sicknesses, right? Flus and things like that, liver disease. And then for people living with these risks, there's this new medication. Lo and behold, this new medication. And that's what happened with this drug. Actually, they found over basically the side effects that were helping with this diabetes, people were also losing weight. And good and bad, right? The side effects of the diabetes medicine was being treated for diabetes. The side effect, they noticed, wow, people are losing weight on this. And it wasn't even that much. It was kind of crazy. It was like 10 pounds over like 6 months or something. And that is much. We have students and people have worked to lose 10 pounds in a month the healthy way. But again, this is something you basically just take the drug and then, it's supposed to do it for you. So here's the side note to that. So here we are with this drug. You've probably heard of it before. Maybe now you understand a little bit. And I'd love to hear maybe from you what you think. Maybe you've used it. Maybe you have some feedback. I'd love to know your thoughts, what you've heard about it. Maybe you've seen it from, celebrities and so forth. Maybe you've seen, oh man, I can't get it. It's hard to get. My doctor doesn't have it. It's hard to get. We'll get into that shortly. So listen, there's the good is that it did help, and it does help with diabetes, and it potentially can, right? There's no surprise. That is, it helps with weight loss, right? So that's kind of what this whole buzz has been about for the last couple of years. I see a lot of other drug companies getting on the bandwagon, but then there's also, so the good is that, right? The bad part of it now. So let's jump right into the bad part. There's, like any drug, that comes with complications and side effects, not favorable side effects. And I'm just going to rattle off some. And these are basically what you see when you watch any drug commercial, which is kind of crazy. You think about the commercials that are shown on TV. I don't personally watch television. I actually maybe watch a little bit of YouTube, but it's hard for me to sit through a commercial that's promoting a drug. But what's really funny, I always love that half the commercial is talking about all the side effects. Pay attention. They speed that up like 10x the speed, like I do when I'm listening to a book on tape. I put it to like 2x so I can go through it quicker. Well, they go through these side effects because there's so many things that they have to warn you about. But it is kind of crazy that they actually pay money to put this in a commercial, because they know viewers like you, maybe you're struggling with weight and your health, maybe you're obese, and maybe you've contemplated, well, now it's in front of your face during the commercial after you're sitting on the couch watching football, stuffing your face with chicken wings and drinking beer and all that stuff. And hey, no judgment there. But of course, they know exactly when they get you when the emotions are high. So here's what you need to know, the bad. Let's go into the bad. We talked about the good real quick on that. Now let's go into the bad. It's the complications: diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, dizziness, nausea, things like hair loss, that gauntlet. They even have a word. It's called the Ozempic face. Have you heard that before? The Ozempic face, like it's not just somebody losing weight, but like you have this Ozempic face, whatever that is. I haven't actually seen that, but I've heard about it. And then in some rare cases, there's things that can be as extreme as renal failure, pancreatitis, and intestinal obstruction, like complete obstruction, right? And those require some serious things that are going to require you to have your doctors take a serious look at. The other thing too, we got to look at the other like not so good thing is that drugs are expensive. And because all of the hype right now, GLP-1 drugs, basically the glucagon peptide drug, GLP-1 drugs are expensive, and expensive to the cost of $1,000 a month on average. Now, I would imagine supply demand, right? The more demand, there may be a shorter supply and the cost is going to go up, just kind of like anything in this world. So just right now, currently, we're talking about $1,000 a month out of pocket. And insurance companies often refuse to cover them. Now, and also, if you're on Medicaid or something like that, not required to be covered by Medicaid. Now, I haven't had this as much as I've actually connected with people in the past, maybe 5 or 7 years, that actually have had things like weight loss surgery that was covered from insurance, right? So you have, you're high risk and you go to your doctor and they say, hey, well, here's an option. You're 100 pounds overweight. You have a significant amount of weight to lose. You qualify because you're a high risk for weight loss surgery. And then guess what? The good news is we can get that covered by insurance. The bad news is what they don't tell you. And I think it's partly why a lot of these insurance companies, somebody's got to pay for it, right? The other hard thing is the outcomes for weight loss surgery. If you go look, you don't hear many people talking about that right now, because a lot of people that had the weight loss surgery, I actually talked to, because there are a lot of women that I've actually connected with that have actually gone through my program good enough. We've had over a dozen of them in the last couple of years that have actually had the weight loss surgery and then put all the weight back on. It's very similar to the outcomes of what a lot is happening with these weight loss drugs. So it's very expensive, and that's $1,000 a month. So you can thank all those famous celebrities and the Kardashians and the TikTokers that are saying, oh my gosh, this is a wonder drug, this is it, and the promotional stuff, and it just goes viral. Well, I just realized that not all that stuff necessarily is good for you, right? Just because it might be working for one person might not be working. And of course, they're not going to share with you all the ins and outs. It's like, oh, help me lose weight, right? Well, again, I think by now, over the course of your life, if you're listening to you and you've been through at least a few decades of life, and I would imagine if you're watching, you probably are like me, 4 or 5 decades, you've probably seen that stuff has been going on for years. Yet, why are people becoming more obese? Why is now 20 years ago, maybe 30% of Americans are obese? And now, if that stuff truly worked, right? If all those medications and all those things actually worked, wouldn't the numbers be going down instead of 30%, 20%, 10%? No, they're going up, which means they're not a solution. It's not working. So again, you can thank them, but maybe thank the celebrities for realizing what you shouldn't be doing, right? And you go to doctors, people are going to doctors' offices now, not even waiting like to talk about diabetes and their health. They're like, hey, I want to lose some weight. I want to go on this Ozempic, right? And they're actually asking it by name, which I think is kind of crazy. The bad news is also for a company like Ozempic, there's actually now companies that are realizing, holy cow, this is a huge market. Big pharma saying, wow, there's a lot of money in this, multi billions of dollars. You think about half of the United States that are obese, that are maybe thinking about this, like that's a huge market. So of course, it's not going to be fair to just one company to have it. So there's similar drug companies, one Mounjaro, I pronounced it right, I think, and they're manufactured by Eli Lilly and Co., getting more drastic results. They're actually showing instead of maybe 10% you can lose of your total body weight, you can get 20%. Basically, what these pharmacies are doing, they're offering these custom medications that really they're there to play with your emotions. And just kind of keep that in mind. And it's even crazy. If you just go to your doctor, there's also pharmacies now which are actually offering, you have like compounding pharmacies that do customized drugs and, medications for allergies and things like that. And maybe you need like a different dosage. They're also actually the reason why a lot of these drug companies for diabetes that have been FDA approved for diabetes are actually now hard to get no matter what company you go with. Kind of crazy, right? Like it's kind of crazy. And, I did a little research on the one company, Novo Nordisk, and I believe it was in the last year, they spent over $11 million whining and dining doctors to have them carry their medication, their weight loss, diabetes, if you will, medication in their office. And that's kind of crazy to think that's how much money is being spent just for whining and dining. We're talking about just buying food for drug reps buying food for doctors, physicians assistants, stuff, so that they actually will promote this medicine. It's all about the money. Just keep that in mind. It's kind of crazy to think that the demand is so high that not only has one or two, but I think right now there's about 11 companies, 11 pharmaceutical companies that are working towards all getting approved for this new weight loss drug, right? They're fighting for your business. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the next couple of years as it becomes like $100 billion company. I think it's even multi-hundreds of billions of dollars, which is kind of crazy to think. And you know what's even crazier? I don't know about you. I didn't really know too much about it because I didn't really pay attention about it to people that I've usually people be kind of hush hush if they're taking like weight loss drugs. Most people are not going to say, they say I lost weight because I ate healthier and I exercised more, right? Like the normal way. But a lot of people don't say that, oh, they're taking, phentermine or they're taking these weight loss drugs. Did you realize that this drug or drugs like this are not new? It's kind of crazy. There's a daily injection that was used way back called liraglutide, sold as Saxenda. It's called Saxenda, approved by the FDA in, get this, 2014. It was approved for obesity in 2014. And that achieved up to, I think it was less than 10%. It was about 5% of a person's body weight versus the semaglutides we're talking about is the Ozempics is 20% and instead of it being a shot once a week, it's a shot every day. So they've come a little further. Instead of taking a shot every day, you get to take one every week or maybe once a month, right? So, and it's kind of crazy. Like Eli Lilly is a company that actually approved this other drug called tirzepatide that's been approved for diabetes only in the US and sold under the name Mounjaro. So think about this. Mounjaro is a drug targets both GIP and GLP receptors and is claimed to be even more effective than the drug. So you hear this all going on behind the scenes. And now there's like 7 or 8, I think even 11 or 12 companies that are all actually fighting for your business because they know they're not out to help you. They're out to make money off of you. So keep this in mind. And it's going to be even crazier when you realize, like, how long do you have to be on this drug for? Think about that. Currently, what's crazy is there are 7 FDA-approved drugs for weight management. And I'll just rattle them off. Maybe you've heard of them. Definitely want to do your research. Xenical, Ali, Centrave, Saxenda, like I mentioned, Qsima, I don't know where they get these names, Limsirvi, Wegovy. Bottom line is these drugs act to suppress appetite, slow the rate at which the stomach empties, and control blood sugar. So if you think about suppressing appetite, right? You've heard of appetite suppressants in the past. There's no difference, really. So my next question to you, now the ugly. So you're the good and the bad. Now we're going to go into the ugly just for a few minutes. When do you stop taking the drug? Well, let's actually back up. Instead of saying when do you stop taking the drug and guess what happens? I'd like you to kind of think about that for a minute. If you stop taking the drug that suppresses your appetite, then what happens? Your appetite comes back. And what's really crazy is a study just last year done by the diabetes. You're going to love this. A 2022 study done by the Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism Group, funded by none other than Novo Nordisk. So you got to think about these studies that are done and think about this. I want you to just use some common sense here. A study done by the Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism Group, funded by the drug company that makes the drug, found that most individuals gain back the weight a year after stopping the medication. I wonder why the drug company would fund the study that would be proving if you went off the drugs, all the weight would come back on. Think about that for a minute. If, let's say, you lost the weight taking this medicine and you were able to be free from all the weight struggles, belly fat, excess, all the health risks, even lower your diabetes, all those types of things, all those risks we talked about. Now, what would happen if that worked and it was a solution and the drug worked for you and it kept the weight off forever? Would you be a customer of theirs anymore? No. Do you think that would benefit them and their bottom line? No. How would they make money off of you if you're not on the medication? So it makes sense. Isn't it interesting how they do a study that's proving that if you get off the drug, you put the weight back on? They want you to be on the drug. In fact, recently I had a client that had been doing really well, pursuing healthier habits, taking the steps, losing some weight, feeling better, making some really developing some great skill sets to bettering her health, even lowering her A1Cs. And the doctor proceeded to try to prescribe Ozempic as a alternative to get the weight off quicker and to try to encourage that person to be on it regardless if they've gotten some results, which just blows me away. But then the best was when the patient, which is a client of that I've worked with, had asked, well, how long do I be on this? How long am I on this medication for? And they were like, oh, well, you don't go off the medication. You stay on it forever. And we talked about how much, right? Didn't we share kind of how much it was? $1,000 a month? Let me get to that in just a minute. So the big question then, and we'll get to the amount that it'll cost to be on one of these weight loss drugs for the rest of your life. You're probably already doing the math right now, right? It's like, but think about this. The big question is, how do I keep the weight off and avoid putting it back on? The question you should be asking, the question you should be finding the solution for is, how do I get the weight off, keep the weight off, and avoid putting it back on for the rest of my life? And the answer is what any doctor, honestly, any doctor will probably tell you this, which just doesn't make sense to me why you'd go to all the trouble to go on the medication, weight loss drugs, go through all the struggle and worry about all the side effects to only still have to address the same things you would have had to address if you had done that in the beginning. And that is, there's 5 things. You got to modify what you eat. You got to make a plan to move more. You got to make sure you're getting enough rest because your body recovers and regenerates. And when you work hard and you take care of yourself, you need that rest. It's a recovery. Your body needs to recharge like your phone does at the end of the day. You need to find foods that are going to be healthy and nourishing and filling, right? You don't have to have an appetite suppressant. If you're just eating garbage that doesn't fill you up, that's probably why you feel like garbage and maybe look like it too. And then number 5 is you got to focus on your health, not your weight. Weight loss is one thing, but you realize when you're losing weight, like on a medication versus doing it the right way, in the healthy way, you're losing weight in your body. That doesn't mean it's just losing fat. You could be losing muscle. You could be losing water weight and fat and a lot of other things in your body like that you need. You need good muscles on your body. But if you're just dropping weight and you're not nourishing your body, and because you're taking in a low amount of calories because you're full and satisfied, doesn't mean your body is going to be really healthier. That's maybe where that Ozempic face came from, right? So let's change gears and talk about the cost factor for this kind of medication, or really honestly any of the ones that are coming up. So let's go back to what the current cost is if your insurance doesn't cover it, which from what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that insurance isn't covering. So unless you got an endless bank account, then you're probably no worries. You can just do this for the rest of your life. Let's just say the average individual that has excess weight and is trying to get it off and they want to lose the weight and keep on this medication the rest of your life, you're paying $1,000 a month. So let's just say you're 50 years old like me. Let's just say on the low end, you got 20 more years. Let's say you got, I think it's more like 80, but let's just do 20 for simple math. So you got 20 more years, right, that you want to have this weight off your body and to keep it off for 20 more years. You're 50, well, I'm 51. So 51 to 71. You got 20 more years at $1,000 a month. Okay, well, let's do some simple math. Okay, 12 months times 1,000 is $12,000 per year. Okay, $12,000 per year. Let's put a decade in there. $12,000 a year times a decade times 10 years is 100, and I'm not the best at math, but I know simple math. $120,000 to be on this medication, and that's at the current price. We know, who knows what it's going to be if the cost keeps going up and the demand goes up. But let's just say on the low end, $1,000, we'll keep it simple. So we're talking about $120,000 for the next 10 years. Now, the rest of your life, we said, well, that would be 20 years, just double that, $240,000 for the rest of your life to be on this medication, if it stays at the low cost of $1,000 per month. So do the math on that and ask yourself, do you think it would be wise to get on this medication now? Now, let's just even say you do it for the next couple of years, to know at the end of it, you're still going to have to make some lifestyle changes. You're still going to need to modify what you eat. You're still going to need to make a plan to move more, to exercise, be active. You're going to need to plan to develop some good sleep habits. You're going to need to actually develop healthier eating so you can have food that's going to nourish your body, right? Give you the proper nutrition, fill you up, right? And then you're also going to eventually need to work towards better health rather than just what the scale says. So wouldn't it make sense? Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I want you to be braver today than tomorrow. Maybe being braver today is actually realizing you're right. Maybe I should just start on working these lifestyle changes if I'm going to have to do those after. I guarantee you it's going to be 10 times harder when you have success losing weight on a medication to then have one extra thing to worry about when you decide, hey, it's not my budget anymore. It's really expensive. I don't want to spend $240,000 a year on weight loss medication when I could have just spent maybe a few $1,000 working with a coach or being on a coaching program or having a trainer, having a gym membership, even splurging on some nice workout clothing, or maybe even on an active trip. Like, you're going to be way better off. It's going to be way more affordable to focus on the lifestyle changes now and just avoid the inevitable. And not to mention, like, when you don't use medication, you don't have to worry about all those risks associated with it. So if you're just wanting, just give me the pill, then you know what? You're going to just have to make that decision for yourself. Totally cool. I just want to help you become not a better informed consumer, just a better informed advocate of your own personal health. And I can tell you, from being in this industry and in the weight loss and fitness space for the past 3 decades, 1,000% better for you to take the approach of working towards making those lifestyle changes now versus those lifestyle changes later. And the benefits way outweigh the risks. The risks from taking medication, not to mention the costs, way higher than the risk of actually doing it on your own, having some help, getting a coach in your corner, having a support system, a structured program, things that you can actually learn, a skill set to develop. Because either way, you're going to have to develop it sooner or later. So you might as well take that step now sooner than doing it later. And really, truly, it's about you being braver today than you were yesterday. I hope this episode found you well. I'd love to hear your thoughts. By all means, challenge me. Go ahead and put some comments down below. I'd love to hear from you what you thought. Maybe you've been on Ozempic or any other weight loss drugs. Maybe you've been on some in the past and you learned from your mistakes 10, 15, 20 years ago, but maybe you've just been doing something else that at the end of the day, deep down, it just comes down to the lifestyle changes. It comes down to wanting what you want, but wanting what that want leads to. And wanting weight loss is one thing, but using a drug to take you there is going to lead you down some different paths. Anyway, take care. This is Coach Mark, and welcome to the Brave podcast, the Brave Today podcast. I do appreciate you for taking time out, and I hope you have an amazing, blessed day. Take care.